It's that time again. It is the 10-year anniversary of my reef tank. On November 10th, 2013, all my livestock that was in a temporary tank moved into this aquarium. And we are 10 years later. Today it is November 10th, 2023. The silicone is still holding. Thank you so much, Marineland, for building me a tank that lasts. Normally, I just kind of do a recap from the top to the bottom, but I don't know if I want to do that this year. I believe that last year I just showed you the tank. You know, I didn't show you any of the stuff underneath. I just described it all. But I thought today what I could do is show you the list of everything that's wrong with the tank that I don't like about the reef and that I need to correct. My schedule's been insanely busy, and I have just not had the ability to do the things I had planned to do for this video, which I had this idea, so I'll just tell you what the idea was so you can just imagine this is what you were seeing. I thought I'd show you a section of the tank that doesn't look great, and then that would be like November 6th, and then I would work on it and I would clean it up. And then I would show you another section on November 7th, and I'd work on that one and clean it up. And just do that each day leading up to the 10th of November, and then at that point, show you the reef, where it's at, how it's looking good for the next year to come. But my schedule did not give me any time whatsoever to do that. So instead, what I'm doing now is I just thought I'd show you the things I need to work on with the reef tank. Because in reality, you guys are working on your tanks and you're always comparing yourselves to Instagram, you're comparing yourselves to YouTube, maybe to my reef, thinking, oh, your tank doesn't look good enough. We all have struggles. We all do the best we can. And you know, sometimes we fall short. So in my case, my general rule is keep your hands out of the tank. And my saying is that my reef lives on in spite of me. And that's pretty accurate. So what I'm going to do is show you some of the areas I don't like and what I plan to do, and give you kind of a close-up of what is going on. My reef is lit with 3 Sky and 2 Reef Bright XHO strips. Now this is a very misleading look because I turned the brightness way down so you could actually see the LEDs. But you know, as I back up, and you know, there you go. That's kind of what it looks like to the eye. And I've got this in, I'm running a filter on my camera which takes away a lot of the blue because I want to show you the flaws in the tank. If I wanted blue, I could hide everything and it would look just perfect, but it's not perfect. So let's start getting into it. Right here, I have what's left of a maze coral that I've had for over a decade that these anemones are slowly just destroying because I didn't reach in to remove them. And they are everywhere. There's another one right there. And then over here, these giant things, those are huge Mahanos that need to go away. They're causing chaos in the tank. And I meant to flip this over. That's actually a beautiful acan, but then I was cleaning the glass and I bumped it. So anyway, I have things to fix in this tank, and I'm going to go in here and I want to remove that vermitid, and that one, and that one, and that one, and then keep looking for them because I know there's more floating around inside here that need to go. This chalice has been a very popular one for a long time. It's got some very, very pretty color to it. Spock hangs out over it. She actually sleeps over it every single night. And I trimmed it, I don't remember, a year and a half ago. And it's already starting to grow up the glass yet again. So nothing slows that thing down from growing. It's really, really pretty. It's got this brown color between the orange mouths with the green rings, and it has this light blue border where it grows new growth. And I love this thing. Then over here, I've got Palithoa, and I have too many. So we've got, you know, these along the glass. I could just literally get rid of them and get them out. And that'll create some negative space. And remove that anemone, and remove that anemone, and lift this out. This whole thing fell down. So this is a Montipora, and I got it from Dwayne. It's green, and it has little tiny blue polyps. Man, come on, focus. And it's a really, really pretty Monty. And it just got super heavy. I bumped it with my cleaning magnet, and then the anemones over here stung the edge of it, made it ugly. Then I've got this acan, which is fine, and there used to be acan right up here as well. I mean, it was all the same coral, but one of those anemones parked right there and burned a hole in the surface. So I recently threw a fungia on top just to quit looking at it. Behind it, I have an elegance coral, and there is my coal tang, and there is my Achilles tang. And you can see all these anemones are just taking over the tank. There's just too many of these things. This one I want, that's the sea bay. That big red one, the rose anemone, I want that. All the rest, I want them out. I want them gone. Because look what they're doing up here. They're causing all kinds of destruction around the base of the green slimer. So the plan, because there's no way to scrape them off easily, is to break off the green slimer, cut off the lower half, re-glue the green slimer lower in the tank to give it room to grow upward again because it's already at the surface of the water, and get those guys out. They gotta go, they're causing chaos. Then in here, we've got way too much bird's nest. The coral is just growing everywhere. It's this one right here, and this isn't even a good angle. I'll have to get you a top-down view here in a moment. But in the center is a blue tort, and then over here, I've got another type of acropora, and then down here, I've got another acropora, and you can see part of this acro is very alive, and part of it is gone. So the urchins keep cleaning it off, but I need to cut off all the good stuff, get rid of all the decaying stuff, and just make it fresh and clean. There's my yellow tang, beautiful specimen, doing really well. And there's my coral beauty right there too. Now this coral's been doing quite well. We got this one from Terra Reef a while back, and it has doubled or tripled in size. And then this one here, the branching Cephastria, really pretty coral. It's kind of getting stung by these guys back here. They keep moving and touching the back and causing a little bit of damage. And then I got a little damage happening with this chalice, which makes no sense at all. And I wonder if maybe this thing is putting out sweepers late at night and stinging it. Here's a frag I got earlier this year that needs to be placed in a new location. The extra fungias need to go away. This one here I got a couple months ago. It's beautiful, it's doing great. And this is the coral that struggled from the potassium problem a long time ago. But down here at the sand, it's growing new, fresh tissue, and that part looks perfect. My big giant tongue coral from Australia that probably was 5 inches when I got it, and now it is a beast of a coral. I mean, what is that thing? 16, 18 inches long? I don't even know. It's doing quite well. Nothing changes. It just gets bigger every year. And this one here is doing really well. And while I was at Aquashella this weekend, this was under this. So somehow it got under and I lost a lot of skin, which really irritates me because I have to wait for this to regrow all over again. There's another Mahano that needs to go away. There's a Mahano and a vermitid that needs to go away. There's some more Mahanos back in there. I mean, my tank just has things I gotta fix. And then this right here is a Hollywood Stunner. I mean, it's fine, but it's wiggling. It's that loose. It would be very easy to pluck that out and remove it. And of course, it's gonna keep growing and it's just gonna keep killing things this direction. So really, the Hollywood Stunner needs to go away completely, and maybe just keep the one that's on the wall because it's not doing any harm back there. Also, I need to pull out the vortex and put clean wet sides on the inside of the tank. Then I probably need to put this somewhere else, even though it's doing quite well. It is an acropora that I got from Dwayne. And then up here, we've got the Shadowcaster that has been with me for so long. And in the back, you can see there's a bunch of anemones that are just causing chaos. So I'm just gonna cut off all those branches with those anemones and get them out of the tank. And then right there in the back, that was a huge red dragon acropora, and a lot of it is gone. There's a Mahano, has to go away. But there's a little bit right there. So my plan is to replant that, start fresh, and let it grow into another colony again if everything goes well. I like the way this acropora is growing, but I don't like all the bird's nest behind it. And there's another anemone in there. There is so much bird nest happening here. It's completely encircled and killed off some of my blue tort that's in the center. And then, there's just too many of these anemones. They all need to go away. It's really, the main problem is the anemones, the Mahanos, which Mahanos are more anemones, right? I do love the hammer coral. It looks perfect. It was featured recently in Coral Magazine. So that one there, if you hadn't read my little sidebar, it's in there. And this coral has been with me for 20 years. These Duncans are doing great. They have no issues at all. It's funny, they tend to close up every night during feeding time. You'd think they'd want to be open when the food hits. All right, and then the Gorgonian here is doing fine. This is the one I got from the Long Island Aquarium. So here we can kind of see a look at the reef. Let me see if I can get in here and kind of maybe fix the lighting a little bit so it looks a little bit better. Maybe not. Let me take the filter off. Ta-da! Kind of looks like a reef now. Kind of hides all the flaws, doesn't it? All right, let's continue. In the back of my tank, the main problem, again, is going to be too many of these anemones. There is probably 10 right there. There's one right there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, just so much damage just from these darn things. Again, the rose is perfectly fine in there. The sea bay would be perfectly fine. But these guys are just, they got to go. They're even stinging some of my micromusa down here. I've got plenty of fungias. They need to go. They're just taking up space. I've got a whole bunch of frammer here. Too much frammer. Look at that perfect colony right there. My plan is to keep this and to remove all of this and this. And probably just send this to ACI Aquaculture and let them grow it out and sell it to you guys. And then I've got my Blue Ridge coral that I've had now for over 20 years. And it was just a nugget when I stuck it in here, and it's completely encrusted all of this area. And then you can see more of the little anemones that are everywhere. And you can see Montipora is doing quite well, but there is another. I know I'm being repetitive. Anemone. They're everywhere. There's another one right there. Again, I need to clean another wet side right here. I need to clean the random flow generators. And then on this end over here, let's see what we got. This chalice could be cleaned up, get rid of all those bubble algae that's underneath it, do something better with it than have it sitting on the sand. Same with this piece of chalice. And then I've got corals here that need to be rescued. So there's a beautiful one, should be in the front of the tank. And that one right there should be in the front of the tank. And that one right there should be in the front of the tank. Let me move this out of the way. Ugh. So there's some good stuff here that needs to come off this corner. And that obviously needs to come off. I think that right there, I wish this thing would focus better. This right here should come off the glass. That is Sunset Montipora. That you can kind of see a corner of it right there. But that needs to be completely removed. And these two leathers need to go away. They are unnecessary in my tank. And then I've got some undergrowth here needs to be cut off. It's just blocking flow. And of course another wet side I need to clean. And here's all those anemones. I just want to rip off the branch and just take them all out at once. And then go in here and clean this area up out as well. Like I said, I have a lot of work in here. And I just have to work my way section through the tank. My Milka coral has not grown nearly as fast as it has in the past because it's in such a shaded area. I mean, when you stand back, you can see it is down underneath all that bird's nest. And then it's even getting stung a little bit down here by the frammer, and that's why there's a white section. And then I see a Mahano right there, and I see another one over here. So those need to be removed. And then I've got some scrolling, what is that? The yellow scroll. It's been doing really well, but look, it's got some pests around it that have to be removed. So there's really a lot of work to be done in this tank to get it back up into its normal look. From above, the reef doesn't look nearly as dire as it does from the side. Actually looks pretty nice. It's really filled in. I should probably try to turn off the skies entirely so we don't get those reflections. So we can look down in here and see what's going on. Okay, the sky had been turned off. Now we're under a lot of blue with a filter on the front of my lens to kind of take the blue out. And you can kind of see what the reef looks like. I mean, there's plenty of really pretty stuff in here. I'm being super picky when I showed it to you under the more harsh lighting conditions, you know, because I was revealing all the flaws. But there's so many nice corals in here that I do love. And I just want my tank to be pretty again. And it's just time to get in here and work on it. So it'll be pretty for the 11th anniversary of the reef tank. Look at that chalice. It looks so cool back there. And I'd like to get an acan garden going on down in that corner down there. See that beautiful Duncan right there? There was another Duncan right there where all those brown anemones are. They're brown and green, but they just killed it completely. So I can basically pull out that entire colony and take all those anemones out in one piece, hopefully. The rose, perfectly fine. I'm happy with it. And of course the sea bay that became so famous from the clown tube video with all the skunk clownfish that are still with me to this day. They're still all 11 in here. So I turned off the return pump for this, and of course while I did that, I turned off the protein skimmer as well, because I just wanted to show you what the tank looks like, and I didn't want the skimmer overflowing while I'm doing this. You see, there's some pretty corals over there. They really need a much better place to be than where they are jammed in that. Look at that giant sunset. That needs to be somewhere else. Realistically, I could remove 50% of that bird's nest and the tank would look better. I do like to get up here from time to time and take a really good hard look at the reef from above because it makes me happy. And I've always encouraged everyone to always look at their aquarium from above. So if you're not doing that, stop what you're doing and do it. On the fish room side of the reef tank, there is to my left the saltwater container that can hold up to 250 gallons of salt water. It needs to be refilled and made with a new batch of salt. I have about 30 gallons left in the bottom of that container. And the temporary anemones, or the temporary tank for the anemones and the clownfish, right there, needs to get out of my way. And I've been promising for some time that I'll get that new tank set up. And I'm now quoting the line from the movie The Money Pit, just 2 more weeks. My waste collector is almost full again. It is connected to the protein skimmer that's right there. The Trident measures the water several times a day. That reactor right there has carbon in it. That right there is waste from the Trident. And that is a bottle of trace elements that has not been filled up in some time. I need to start getting back to that because that definitely made a difference with my tank. I still have the same drains I've always had, 1.5 inches going down, using a gate valve to control the water going into the sump. The difference is a lot of times people have the pipes go into the sump, and I actually had mine go down and into the side of the sump. And so I have no bubbles going in where the water goes in. It's just a full siphon and it's dead silent. My electrical panel is the Apex brain, a couple of Vortec drivers, there's a Versa pump, there's a MXM right there. There's a WXM right there. There's the Abyss driver. There's the Milwaukee pH controller for my calcium reactor. Some of the trace elements, the display module showing the current tank parameters. I've got a bunch of switches for when I do things. Down here is one of my energy bars. There's actually a second one right there. It's black, you can't see it. And then here's my CO2 tank for the calcium reactor. Down here are some power bricks, and behind it is a UPS that provides power to the Apex if there is a power outage. And then the reef itself with some blue light. And beneath it you can see the refugium. I need to clean the glass. I should have done that before this video. And my top-off container right here on the right that holds about a week's worth of top-off water. You can see the algae turf scrubber right here, my calcium reactor right here, some cooling fans, a manifold with 3 different valves for if I want to hook anything up. You know, like right there, the top valve is going to be the algae turf scrubber. The second valve is my carbon reactor. My third valve used to be for the calcium reactor, but now I use that Versa pump behind it to feed that reactor. I just filled that reactor up recently with a bunch of reborn media. You can see it right there. And there's a disc on top that just shows me that there's flow happening in the reactor. That's all it is. The refugium is lit with natural lighting, so it's daylight. It's probably 5100 Kelvin, 6500, and it's made by Reef Bright. And that's kind of it. Here's the end view of the tank. It has really filled in a lot over the last 2 years. I want to zoom in on this copper band. Look how beautiful she is. I say she, could be a he. I don't know. So the copper band is eating the frozen food I put in each night, and its preference is mini mysis. And of course, it'll go for some PE mysis as well. It doesn't really care for anything else I drop in. I want to talk about the cold tang. You'll notice on its face that there is a hole under the eye. Of course, this side, it turned around so now you can't tell. It had a real problem with some kind of erosion, but it was not head and lateral line. My friend came over and he said, I think it's nutrition. You're not using nearly enough nori. So I've really stepped up putting nori in the tank more frequently, and it is way better than it was. So while it ain't pretty, a year from now, it might look perfect again. It just comes down to me putting in way more herbivore stuff for this fish and not letting it just find what it can in the tank. But as you can see, it's constantly pecking at the glass or on the sand or the corals, looking for things to snack on. This is Spock. She's a Nassau tang. I've had her since 2004. She's a beautiful fish, and she's lost vision in one of her eyes for sure. It's just cloudy. There's no like infection, but she just can't see from it. So when food goes in the tank, she's looking for it and swims past it till the other eye notices, and then she goes crazy and chases it down. So I also want to put Nori in the tank for her regularly to give her a place to get food very easily. Those pajama cardinals have been with me for a super long time. They're ginormous. There's 3 of them in my tank. I had 5 originally, and I lost a couple over the last year or 2, and I'm down to 3, and they're always out and about waiting for dinner time. They're pretty big. The skunk clowns were tank raised. I put them in the tank, 8 years ago, I believe. And you'll see a little bit of skirmishing, but they tend to live in the anemone zone without any real complaint. You know, they just come out and look for food and then do their thing. This right here is the female bimaculatus. I lost the male I have no idea why. Probably about 6 months ago. I found it face first jammed in a coral. I think it dove into the coral to get food and got stuck and died there. But she's very, very pretty. But her partner was even more vivid. Just the pattern was insane. The maintenance that I spend working on this tank is really just making sure the equipment is running, that the reagents are refilled on the automatic testing, that the top-off container is full of water. I do occasional water changes, maybe 5 or 6 times a year. There's no rhyme or reason when I choose to do one. There's no specific number of gallons I'm changing. It might be 80 gallons, it might be 120, it might be 40. It just happens to be what I'm doing that day. I am cleaning the glass frequently and taking pictures. But I don't really do much more with the tank. I'm not in there constantly tinkering. And I just want to make sure everything continues to have a chance to grow. And it's clearly overgrown. It is to the point now where I have to get involved again. It's almost time for another reef reset, believe it or not. And I can't believe I even say those words because my buddy Dwayne was constantly doing those. And I was just thinking, why? Why do you keep messing with your tank? But as you can see, it is full. And there's a big problem right now. And I know this was kind of a negative video because I wasn't like, look at all the amazing things. But I kind of wanted to show you reality. I just feel like that's the best way to learn from. And you could say, hey, I do not want to get this problem to get out of hand. Look what happened to Mark. That's okay. I understand that. That's fine. In the meantime, I'm still happy I have a reef. I still enjoy being in this room, relaxing, watching TV, and looking over my reef tank, and it's full of life and happiness. I just want it to be a little bit more perfect, so I need to get involved and actually do some work and quit waiting and quit putting it off. I got to find a way to squeeze in, some serious maintenance into this, into my schedule, and then we'll see what happens with the tank in the coming months. So thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, ask in the comments below. Look at that fat fungia. It is super inflated. That is not its normal look. See, look at that balloon looking thing. I'm poking it with this big acrylic, this big basket off my nori feeder. Look at that thing. Crazy. I'm trying to clean the glass.